today's video is about my IBM PS2. It's a Model 55 that I picked up a few weeks ago. I have quite a lot of problems getting it running. I've recorded this intro just after it. I mean, I know I've had quite a lot of issues with it. I had to do a bit of recapping, a lot of servicing and things like that, but I've got it actually up and running. I'm quite pleased with the end result. Just needs a bit of a clean up now. So I'll get straight on with the video. So let's just have a quick tour of the PS2 here. It's a personal computer, sorry, IBM Personal System 2 Model 55SX. I'll talk you through it a little bit, this machine, and I'll tell you what, there's a little thing I've done to it, and I'll talk you through something that I actually need to do to it. So I've already unscrewed, they've got like little security screws, but somebody's already drilled off the nubbins on the security screws, so you can just use a standard T15 or just a flathead screwdriver. Will open this up. It comes out quite nicely. A lot of toolless sort of systems on this. The early 90s PC, maybe late. Well, I think the PS2s are around from the late 80s, early 90s. I don't know exactly. So what we got in here? I mean, it's all in really good condition actually. I mean, I've had it powered up, works, comes on fine. There's just one problem that's stopping me actually getting it booted up, which I'll show you in a second. But see on the back here, we've got a SCSI card in there, so we've actually got an external SCSI, which will, some sort of hard drive you can put in there. I can't work out whether the actual internal hard drive is SCSI or not. It seems to attach onto the same sort of riser board off the motherboard, but I'm not sure really. Serial, parallel, can't remember which way around that is. Yeah, that's parallel, that's serial. And here, if you look here, you might recognise these. These are the PS2 ports, which are the keyboard and mouse. I don't know if they called them PS2 ports originally, but even modern PCs sometimes have these ports on, and a lot of gamers swear by them because they actually you go through the universal serial bus, the USB. They go through a different. I'm guessing they go through a different bus, so they reckon they have less lag, which is for gamers. When you're gaming sort of online, Call of Duty, that sort of thing. They want. So modern PCs still often have these, not always, but still often have these PS2s, or sometimes they have a combi port for both keyboard and mouse, so you can plug them both into the same port, or some sort of splitter or something. So yes, obviously the PS2 ports got the name from the PS2 machine, which was, IBM's way of kind of trying to keep hold of the IBM PC market, which obviously at the time there was a lot of clones and replacements coming out of. So inside, again, most of it's quite toolless. It's really easy to get. I've taken out the floppy drive, given that a bit of a service. I haven't taken out the hard drive. I didn't really want to detach these cables in case we get any damage to them. But yeah, that's the hard drive, floppy drive there. See the motherboard in here. It's got an Ethernet card, and those who are in the know will know that that's a BNC Ethernet port there. So it's an old standard of Ethernet sort of type of networking cable. So you can't really see that much in there, but the thing that I really want to show you is here. You'll notice there's actually a socket there. Well, you can see it from there, but there's a socket there that hasn't got a chip in at all, and I've taken that chip out. Now the reason I've taken that chip out is when I boot this machine, it comes up with an error, which you obviously expect for it. I mean, obviously, it gets something on the display, which is that's a good thing. If you skip the errors, you end up going straight into basic, which is quite unusual for. I haven't seen that on a PC before, but it's got some sort of basic operating system built in there. So it's not booting off the hard drive, and the reason it's not booting off the hard drive is because it can't see any CMOS settings. So there's no settings in there. It doesn't know what it's looking for hard drive wise, so it's just avoiding it completely, just to be on the safe side. And the reason that is because the battery has gone on the motherboard. Now most modern motherboards have well, in fact, motherboards for many years now have had little coin cell batteries on that are fairly easy to replace. So you can pop them out and pop them back in again. Unfortunately, this one has what we call it's a Dallas chip, which is that stores the CMOS or the BIOS settings. That's the CMOS, sorry, that stores the BIOS settings on the motherboard. It has a built-in battery. So not easy to replace the actual battery on this. So what I'm going to try and do, I've been watching some tutorials, looking on the internet, is actually modify this chip and fit a coin cell battery holder, this one here, somehow onto this. And the way you do that is on one side you'll notice there's less pins on this side, but you've got side without pins, and I need to check the exact gaps and everything, the exact positions, but you can grind holes in here, cut out the battery that's inside. This case just won't come off at all, so you can basically cut out the connections to the internal battery, and then solder some wires into this coin cell battery holder, which can mounted maybe on the top, on the side. If you put it on the top, you might struggle to get certain expansion cards in there, but for me that probably doesn't matter because I don't think I'll be using that expansion port. So drilling holes in here, or grinding holes in here, soldering wires to that, soldering them to the coin cell battery holder, gluing that on somehow onto there, and that's going to be the fix. Then hopefully I can configure the BIOS settings. Again, I have to use a disk to do that. It's not like modern machines where you just press F1 or Control to go into the BIOS. You've got to actually use a floppy disk to actually do it. So I've managed to find the image for that. I can burn that on. One thing about this modification I'm about to do, now watching Necroware on YouTube, he's does some really good, sort of very low level repairs, really interesting low level repairs on a lot of PC motherboards. And really good channel, really interesting if you like watching people sort of really pick these things apart. But what he pointed out was that what the classic mod for these is to actually grind two holes, so one for the voltage, one for the ground. But he pointed out that this pin at the back is actually a common ground, this one over here. So there's no point in actually grinding another hole for the ground. You just need to grind a hole for the positive terminal, solder a cable to that, solder it to that, and then run the other cable around to the other side and just solder it onto that ground leg there, and then I can just push this back in and hopefully get it all set up. So that's what I intend to do. Let's see how we get on with that. So I've I've ground the hole in the side of there. You may just be able to see, I haven't got the best camera for this sort of macro work, and I've glued the thing onto the top, the coin cell battery holder onto the top. I'll just use this sort of grinding bit on the end of my multi-tool here, and you can just about see the metal sort of exposed there. And what I've done is just to sort of test actually the battery that's in there, to test I've actually got the contact on the right thing. I can actually test the voltage. So if I use my little multimeter across there, that's the right setting. Yeah, I mean we've got a tiny amount of voltage showing up there. Yeah, it's hovering about, no, it's just dropping even below. It's hovering about 1 volt, then dropping a bit even below 1 volt. But obviously if I've got this coin battery here, if I test that one, it's setting higher. Yeah, I get 3 volts, which is what should be going across that that point. So I will try and find some wires and solder them on. So using my trusty old soldering iron, that's my granddad's soldering iron on this, so maybe not the best, but I might need to upgrade this to something a bit better. I can't really control the temperature or anything like that, but it solders things. So using my old trusty soldering iron, bit of hot glue, this is the result. So I've, as you can see, I've soldered the blue wire. Again, any electricians out there, don't criticise my colour code or anything like that, to the earth. Leg just there. Again, it's not easy to see. I could do with a better camera lens for this. And then the brown wire I have soldered to the point where I drilled the hole inside there. Tested the voltage across, but I'm really only touching the wire, so it's hard really to tell. So hopefully that is a fixed CMOS chip. So I suppose there's only one thing for it, and it's to actually plug it in and see if it actually works. So that's it, booted it up with the floppy drive now, and I've got the screen. just indicates I've got the right sort of reference disk in for the Model 55, which is what I've got. So a bit of progress. So I'm going to try and configure the BIOS a bit, see if the hard drive in it still works. Hopefully, if it does, there's still a bit of software on there. Hopefully, MS-DOS, maybe a bit of Windows 3.1. We'll have a look. See if I can get something working on it. After getting the replacing the CMOS battery in the fix that I showed you, I started trying to boot this thing up after I've put it in, and I no longer getting the error which suggests that the battery's dead on the CMOS, so that's a good positive. So hopefully that's a good thing, but it's coming up with various configuration errors. So I'm trying to get it to run the boot disk, which I've found the image online. I've created a boot disk on my PC, which should have all the configuration, all the settings, so I can set the BIOS settings and things like that. Like I said, on this PS2s, you can't do that by just pressing F1 or Control or whatever it is, F12, whilst you boot up. You have to actually load it off a disk. But this, the floppy drive didn't seem to be reading properly. I was getting lots of disk errors. So I've taken it apart, the floppy drive, taken it out. And I haven't completely taken it apart. I've just taken the lid off here, just a couple of screws, and it's sort of slotted off. And what I've been doing is just similar to what I did with my Mac. I'm just been cleaning this worm wheel here, worm screw. So I've managed to sort of manipulate it a bit with these cotton buds and a bit of alcohol white, managing to sort of twist it around just to kind of move the head up and down a bit, just so I can access all of that. Then clean it with some isopropyl alcohol on the end of the cotton buds, get rid of all the gunk and gunge. Then I'm going to replace that with some new grease. Just dab a bit of new grease onto that worm wheel, up and down it, and then hopefully get it just moving a bit better. I did dismantle it before and clean the heads, and again I used my sort of technique of using a alcohol wipe, put the alcohol wipe in between the heads, just push them together, and then just gently pull out the alcohol wipe just to cause a bit of friction with the alcohol wipe on the heads, and that seemed to work out pretty well with my Mac, so hopefully it'll work with this as well. So I'll finish that modification, this fix, and then I'll see what happens. It's been a little while since I've been recording for this video. I've been having quite a lot of problem with this floppy drive. What have I done for it? So yeah, I mean, I've read a lot about them on the internet, and it turns out these PS2 floppy drives are very renowned for going. So I've been doing a lot of cleaning, a bit of lubrication. Kind of can get it working sometimes, sort of intermittently. So I'm hoping. And so the last thing I had to end up doing was I actually, because a lot of people were suggesting the capacitors needed replacing, which sort of affects the voltages and all the currents or whatever going into the motors, so it don't quite work as it should do. So yeah, the last thing I did was I invested in a new soldering iron, bought some capacitors, some various bits of wick and things like that I need to sort of like recap, and I've actually recapped the drive. So this is my first electronics project, and I've replaced the capacitor here, which I think has something to do with the spin speed of the actual disc, and then there's another two capacitors over here which I've replaced, which I think to some extent might be involved in the movement of this motor, which moves the drive heads sort of up and down. So yes, that's my first recapping. I powered it back up again. It has been working, like I say, intermittently. One thing that I did start adjusting was there's a little screw here which adjusts it's like the home position of the heads, which should sort of correspond with the track 0 of the floppy disk. And I'm not sure whether I should have started experimenting with that, because I'm not sure it made it quite tricky. I was having to do a lot of experimentation to get that back in the right place. I think I've got it back in the right place now anyway. So it is working to some sort of degree. But when I get it booted up, I'm now struggling to get the hard drive working. It doesn't seem to detect this card here, and I have no idea what this card is. I'm thinking it's some sort of SCSI controller, because it's got a SCSI out on the back, it's got a SCSI header here, but you have to have certain, they're not drivers, they're called description files. You need to have them to actually configure the BIOS to use it. The problem is if I remove it, the hard drive doesn't work at all. So somehow, if you can see the hard drive here, it comes, there's a sort of ribbon cable that goes onto the top of this like riser bar here, which has got these, which I originally thought they were ISA slots there, but they're not ISA slots, they're micro channel architecture slots. So this PS2 has been proving quite troublesome for me. I think partially because of how, although it's an IBM, it's not the most IBM compatible PC I've ever messed about with. You know, I'm very familiar with IBM sort of architecture, so IBM compatible architecture, but this microchannel system is a bit different. So yeah, I'm going to hopefully get this floppy drive back together, have a bit more of a play around, see if I can get this actually working. But like I say, I'm quite pleased that I suppose it's forced me to actually learn how to do these sort of recapping, because I would quite like to recap my Mac Classic at some point and see if I can get that working a bit more stably. So anyway, I'll power this up, see if it works now. Well, let's see what happens when we power this up, see what we get on the screen. I need to turn the screen on actually, and it should, because I haven't put a disc in yet, so it should come up basically asking for some sort of IBM disc. Right, we've got Error 160. Can't remember what that one is. Right, let's try putting a disc in then. We'll go for the, so this is the setup disc, and this is the one that brings up the setup configuration program. See if this works. It's reading it now, so that's quite good. Right, so we're got a bit more consistent with the drive reading, and we're getting an IBM boot up sort of screen here now. So I'll just press enter to continue, and it's going to tell me that there's a configuration error. So it knows there's a card in there that it doesn't know what it is. It can't tell me what it is. Now I can't find the files for that, so I'm going to have to do a bit more messing about. But let's go into the configuration. I'm not going to automatically configure. Go into the configuration. Oh, here we go. Right, and I'll just show you the actual configuration, because that's quite. And you can see, we'll actually see the hard drive. Again, I don't know whether the hard drive is actually working. You can see it, whether it actually is spinning up enough to actually. Hang on, I don't seem to be reading this disc properly now. Let's say I've had all sorts of problems with. Let's try that again with the floppy drive. So if that disk has got corrupted somehow, or whether it's the floppy drive. Let's try booting into DOS, see if I can get it onto a DOS prompt. So I've got a DOS boot disk here. I'm getting that error 160 as well. Let me just have a look what error 160 is. I'll see if it boots into DOS first. Starting MS-DOS, sign. Tries to load a CD-ROM drive, but obviously there's no CD-ROM drive installed. I think I got this off the internet, this DOS disk image, and but hopefully it'll go to an A prompt, which shows that the computer does actually work. So on DOS 6.2, let's just have a look at mem, just see if it can see how much memory it can see. Yeah, so you can see all the memory on there, 640k thereabouts. It's got loaded a bit of. So yeah, that's how it's used. So there'll be some drivers that have loaded up on there. It got 4 megabytes of extended memory on there. So yeah, so that's working. Let's just try typing in C. Nah, it doesn't. If I type in F disk, no fixed disks present, so it's not detecting that there's a hard drive there at all at the moment. Let's try check disk. No hard drive showing up, I don't think. No, it's just checking the A drive, it's not checking the C drive. I'll try, it's not, so it's just not showing up at all, isn't the, so I don't know whether it's a problem with this SCSI controller and that somehow interfaces with the hard drive. I'm not sure, but at least I can get it booted into DOS, so potentially I can get some software working off the floppy drive, so it is working of a fashion. Just would have been nice to just to try and get this hard drive, see if I can see it, just so I can see if there's anything on it, because if there is some sort of DOS install, there might even be some software on there that I can have a play around with. But yeah, I'll continue to have a mess about. So back in this setup, so this is, like I said, this is a BIOS sort of setup thing, and what it does is it's detected in slot 2, which you can see this long card down there. It doesn't know what it is, and it's not, it can't be something that's standard to the original one, because the reference disk that I'm using to boot, it doesn't have a description of it, so it can't find it. And I've tried to find various different description files, so it's just trying to work out what it is really to try and get that installed. And like I say, if I remove that, it doesn't detect the hard drive. But if I press escape, should bring up the actual sort of configuration. The floppy drive seems to be working a lot better now since I got it lubricated. Replace the heads, sorry, the capacitors. Right, so view configuration. So we can see we've got 4 megabytes of RAM. We've got the 1.44 megabyte 3.5 inch floppy drive. Got a serial port, parallel port. So slot 1 is empty. Slot 2 unrecognised adapter installed. So like I say, it's this MCA, some sort of MCA adapter. Not sure what it is, and I need to find the right description file. There's very little wording actually on the card, so I just can't work out what it is. So might just have to keep experimenting, downloading various different SCSI files and see if I can get it to work. But you can see here that it is actually recognising so it recognises slot 4, which is the top. It's like a top slot there. I don't know if you can really see it. It recognises that as a primary hard drive, but it's not attempting to boot off that. So I don't know if that's something to do with the other card not being installed properly. Like I say, there must be some connection, because as soon as I take out the other card, the hard drive doesn't get recognised at all. Well, maybe I'll try that again, just see. Maybe I dislodged the riser or something when I did it last time. So I might just have another experiment with that and see what happens. So unbelievably, after last time I said it doesn't work, the hard drive, after with that card unplugged. As soon as I've unplugged the card again this time, it's immediately booted into something, some sort of I mean, it definitely booted into DOS. I saw it load DOS, and we've got some options here. So we've got SuperCalc on here. Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, I used to use SuperCalc ages ago. First sort of spreadsheet software I used to use on a sort of 386 system similar to that. We've got Microsoft Windows, which I'm guessing is Windows 3.11, Altos, a tape backup software. So I don't know, it's Lansing Lind Dewsbury's Limited. I don't know who what that company is, so maybe I'll need to search that, see if that's still an existing company before publishing this this video. But let's quit to DOS and just see. I mean, hang on, I'm pressing the wrong button there. Q, quit to DOS. So let's just have a look what's actually on this hard drive. So we've got quite a lot of stuff on there. See how much space is free. Alright, what's it doing now? It's taking a while to think about this. Whether it's taking a long time to calculate the free space, or whether it's actually just crashed. Still hear the hard drive ticking over. You can hear it crunching away. But it has stopped on that dir command, so there may be something. I might need to run a scan disk or a check disk. A bit more work here. Last I rebooted it again, the hard drive didn't work. We've definitely got a bit of an intermittent hard drive fault here. We've gone down to DOS prompt. We've got a yellow DOS prompt actually, which is interesting. But anyway, type in ver. We've got IBM DOS. Oh, it's IBM DOS version 5.0.2. So it's not even MS DOS on this. That's interesting. I know they were very similar for quite a number of years with IBM DOS and MS DOS, but not exactly the same. I run a check disk, and got one lost allocation units in one chain, so we've got a little bit of corruption on this hard drive. How do you run a fix? Let's have a look. Can't remember how to do. It hasn't got scan disk. Let's do check disk /? Right. Now, so /f would fix the errors on the drive. So let's try that. DSK/f. See if I can fix the drive. It's running okay now. It's just when I did that dir earlier, wasn't it? Didn't like it, did it? So dir. Let's do a dir start, a bit more specific dir. If I can find. Yeah, so how much space have we got free here? Let's work this out. Is it 11 megabytes of disk drive space? I can't see where SuperCalc is. Let's just try loading Windows. I'm going to give Windows 3.1 a try. Well, I'm assuming it's Windows 3.1. It's don't know if Windows 3.1. Yeah, did run on IBM DOS. I think originally they made it so it was incompatible, but I think there might have been like a lawsuit or something that made it. They made it so they had to make it compatible for the. Oh, nice background. Just hope there's nothing too private on here, nothing too personal. Might have to edit this video out if I find something personal. Is my mouse working? Yep, mouse is working. Oh, look at that. Spreadsheets, applications, Colorado backup, Barclays. I know there was a NatWest option on the DOS menu. I don't know what Barclays is. Business Master. So it's clearly used as a business PC, was this, wasn't it? Control. It's a long time since I've used Windows 3.1. I mean, I never got as familiar with it as I did Windows 98 or 95. But let's see what it says under drivers. I mean, the reason being really is that gamers did never really use Windows 3.1 because all it is like a shell on top of, it's like a GUI on top of MS-DOS. And I know Windows 95 is to some extent, but games did run well in Windows 95 because of the way it managed memory and stuff like that. They never really ran very well in Windows 3.1. It was always a disadvantage to run it from within Windows. So, right, so there's some interesting stuff on here. Spreadsheets, what we got? Microsoft Excel. What version of Microsoft Excel have we got on here? Shame I can't just clone this hard drive, just make a copy of it, because if it goes, we're going to lose a lot of this sort of stuff. We've got a file error because there's a DLL missing. Cannot read this binary file. Yeah, Microsoft Excel version 4, which is quite good because we've got Microsoft Word version 4 on the Mac over there. What's it loading? It's very slow. You can see that percentage sort of clicking up at the top of the screen. So DJ Knight, Dave, Lansing Lind Limited. It's trying to load up a file. That's not what I wanted to do. It's corrupt file, so at least we're not getting private information coming up. Let's just. It's clearly hard drive errors on this. It's struggling with. Let's try and create a new Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Let's do a worksheet. Let's put some numbers in. 223. Sum that. Does that work? Can you do it? No, because I didn't put equals, did I? Alright, it's not quite as intelligent as modern version. So equals sum. Yeah, that's it. Right, let's go do the sum of that. Close bracket. Oh, look, there we go. Got a spreadsheet going. Yeah, I like these top menus. I think I've got these. Like quick shortcuts, which I don't remember. I didn't realise they had on this sort of early version. Right, let's go out of there. Not saving changes. Notepad. Let's close that. What else we got? Games. Solitaire and Minesweeper. There we go. So I'm going to play my first game on this classic game of Minesweeper. There we go. Perfect. So now I've got a new gaming machine now, haven't I? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah. No, that was already touching 3, wasn't it? Yeah. Failed at Minesweeper. And let's see, Solitaire. Oh, look at the play. One card draw mode. I mean, that's just cheating, isn't it? It should be 3 card draw mode. That's how you play it. Oh, that's not a good start, is it? Can't see what I can do there. Can't put that king down. Can't put that 4. Now, ace, right, that's the start, and then I can put that up there. 9, 10, 8, 9. Oh, here we go, we're getting a bit of progress now. Certainly performance doesn't seems to be handling these graphics okay, doesn't it? It's full Super VGA. I mean, is it 640 by 480? Let's have a look. How can I find out the? I need to go into settings, don't I? So control panel. Let's see what the resolution of the screen is. Where would it be under? Desktop. Let's try desktop. Can actually change the resolution of it. Not in there, I don't think I can. Screensaver setup. Well, let's see what the screensaver we've got. Time to rock and roll. Interesting. Flying windows. I used to quite like the maze one. Although, was that Windows 95, the maze one? Oh, look at that, we've got flying windows. Now it's struggling a bit with that, isn't it? You can see that it's really struggling to render and move those images. So that perhaps is the sort of limit of this. Maybe if I've got a math coprocessor installed. Right, anyway, where do I find the screen resolution? I don't know if you can even do that in here. That's probably a different way of doing it. Let's say 386 enhanced. Virtual memory. Yeah, I mean this is out of my fluency. You know, I've not got. You know, I mean, I've used Windows 3.1. I've used a lot of DOS. But this isn't exactly the sort of systems that I've used before, and I can't remember how to change the resolution. Properties. Oh, that's the icon properties, isn't it? Anything else in here? Oh, hang on, here we go. Got much more in here. Windows setup. Is that where I can set resolutions? Or I'm going to start reinstalling Windows again. We've got VGA display. Change system settings. There we go. VGA. Right, so we can go into other settings here. I don't know whether it's got a Super VGA output. And I don't know if I change it whether I'll be able to. PS2 mouse, network, no network installed. It's all very interesting anyway. I just hope this hard drive holds out for me, because Sunday. Muse, what's Muse? Emuse, Altos. Is it an emulator? I think it's a DOS based program, whatever it is. COM open error port not found. Alright, so it must be some, it's trying to connect to something externally on one of the COM ports. So it must be, yes, it must be some sort of industrial software or something that's trying to connect and use some sort of external. Interesting. Right, Alt-X, go back to DOS. Didn't like that, did it? Right, escape. Alt-X, there we go, back into Windows again. Right, interesting anyway. So we've got, what other applications have we got on here? QBasic. Dare I try and see if I can get it's got quite a lot of bits of software on here. Right, I'm gonna have a go with Microsoft QBasic, see if it's got gorillas on. Gorilla.bas. Long time since I've tried this. Right, escaped, clear. Right, Alt F file. Open. Ah, there we go. Look at that. Gorilla.bas. There we go. Right, how do we run? Alt R. Listen to that music. PC beeper sound. This is a classic game of a bit like Tanks or Worms, really. I suppose this is like, you know, precursor to Worms. So I'll just put one player. So I'm hoping it'll. Oh, hang on. Name of player 1, so name of player 2. Right, so just called 1 and 2. How many total points? Right, that's just first to 3. Gravity, yeah, we'll just leave it as normal. Play game. I used to mess about with the basic code on this as well to try and you know, adjust things and things like that. So basically, you set the angle, so 45 degrees. Set the velocity. Let's go for 40. I honestly don't know what the magnitude is on these things. We'll see what happens. So 45 degrees, 40. He chucks his banana. It's going to show well short. And the other guy, now he's going to have a slightly higher angle into 50 degrees. Velocity. Let's go a bit higher then. So we got a wind. You can't see on this screen. I should have changed the aspect ratio on it, but let's go for 70. So obviously the angle's higher. If it goes through the sun, oh no, I thought the sun. You get nice little animation on the sun, but I thought the sun would actually kill the banana. So let's go for 45 again on him, and let's go for 70. Now let's go for 60. Oh, it's looking good. It's looking good. Is it a good shot? Yep. Ah, nice. Explosion. Great little game. I don't want to shut this down because as soon as I shut it down, I'll probably never get this hard drive working again. Let's try Nibbles because there's another, like I say, there's another couple of basic programs. Money, mortgage. You've got some productivity software on here that's been programmed in basic. Nibbles is a we get the same music as on it's a one player. We'll start at novice level, increase game, yeah, so we'll keep monochrome colour, let's go for, and then basically it's Snake. I think you collect numbers, or is that a different version I'm thinking of? Yeah, you collect numbers, so I think if you collected 1 it extends your Snake by 1 character wide. You collect 2, I think it does, or maybe they just go up in order. Don't know what happens when it gets to 10. But yeah, it's just trying to get as big as you possibly can, really. It's called Sammy. I'm a bit precarious here, holding my arm over the computer like this. I'm not going to get a massive electric shock. I'm being quite careful not to touch it. Looks like I'm being a bit reckless, doesn't it? I could have done with moving it, but I don't move it again because my hard drive might just stop working. What happens when I get to 9? Oh, next level. Oh yeah, I remember this. So the levels progress and you get sort of increasing complexity. So Yeah, you just have to collect 1 to 9, and then you move on to the next level, and they just get harder and harder and harder. So that's great. Brings back some memories. Right, okay, well I'm just going to continue having a bit of a play around with this. So just to finish off the video, I think the hard drive's working a bit more consistently now. I don't think it just needed to get warmed up and get moving. It seems to be accessing a lot better now. I'm getting a lot less errors on it. I thought we'd just try a few games. I've copied a few games off across the floppy drive, so that's quite good. Just point out the Lansing Lind. I'm not sure it is a company that's still going, but there isn't really any data on here. I think everything's been wiped off. There's just some of the sort of bare bones software, and I've deleted quite a lot of stuff off just to try and create some space in my games. But let's have a look at some games I've got on here. Let's go for Test Drive. This is one of the first. I can't remember what the executable's called. This is one of the first games I probably ever played on a PC. One of my friends had a PC at the time, and I remember going around to his house and playing Test Drive. I've only got this CGA version, so it's quite low colour. Now you'll hear the sound. There's no sound card in here or anything, so we've just got PC speaker sound. But you know, they made most of the PC speaker sound in them days. So let's go for the Lamborghini Countach. That's it. Enter. Nice sliding door, rising door. Lots of nice stats about it. Right, here we go now. If I remember how to, so I think accelerate. That's it. Then you have to put it into first gear. There we go. Into second gear. I've played this a couple of times recently, and I can't get around the first corner because as soon as you seem to get to the first corner, there's a very slow car, and then there's a lorry coming the opposite way. So I think you've got to slow down a bit. I mean, this might not look like much really, but actually for the time, you know, the way that the PC could handle sort of these 3D graphics, you see, just crashed straight to the back of it, and the lorry wasn't coming the other way this time. The way that actually the PC could sort of do these sort of like polygon graphics and stuff like that was actually quite impressive for the time. I wasn't used to seeing something like this on the PC. Now that's quite an early game for this sort of 386 machine, so it handles it like perfectly well. I think there is an EJ version. It's got more colours. What else have I got on here? So let's try Prince of Persia. So I think this is running in full VGA colour. I think it might be EGA colour, I don't know. But I mean, there's not a lot of colours on here, is there? But it looks a lot better than Test Drive. This is a slightly sort of later game. Obviously the detail and the graphics isn't quite as good as the on the Apple, but at least it's in colour on this one, I suppose. So there you go. I mean, that's what Prince of Persia looks like. Let's go and get out of here. There's a way to do it. That's it. So I want to show you two things actually. So if we look at sort of later games, which are probably more released around the sort of time of this, two I'm thinking of is Duke Nukem 2 and Wolfenstein 3D. And let's go into Wolfenstein 3D first, because I remember last time Duke Nukem 2 actually crashed it. So Wolfenstein 3D, you don't need to research this. Probably one of the first 3D games. Certainly one of the first 3D games where I saw textures on walls, I think, you know, that really actually gave it that sort of 3D effect. Now this just runs very well on here. I was amazed how well this runs on here, to be honest with you. I was expecting this to be quite slow. Let's go and have a look. Don't hurt me, I'm not I get killed too quickly. A little bit of time to run, but I'm sure the first time I played this I had to run. You can like minimise the screen, make the screen smaller so you get a higher frame rate, but it seems to run perfectly on here, to be honest with you. Then again, I suppose it's not having to calculate any sound or anything, is it? Well, I suppose it's probably not. It's certainly not smooth as it runs on DOSBox on my sort of modern PC. But oh, where's he? Somebody. I'm about to die here, aren't I? There's quite a lot of secret doors in this game, you know. If you just sort of go up to flags and things and press the open button, sometimes you find sort of secret doors. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it runs pretty well anyway, considering. I mean, I'd have been really impressed with this at the time. I mean, look at the blood splatters on the textures, brilliant. But let me show you Duke Nukem 2, which is actually a 2D game, which is probably, you know, it's a late 2D game, really, isn't it? So I suppose you'd expect it to be really stretching the you'd really expect it to be stretching the system. Right, where's this Nukem 2? I'm just looking at the executable file. I was thinking of maybe doing like a tutorial video on how to use DOS. Actually, I'm not sure. It's something that seems to be a bit lost. I follow quite a few sort of Facebook groups on DOS. A lot of people are always using menus. I never use menus, and I never really felt the need to. You know, if you can get where you want to be with the command prompt, no problem at all. And it's actually working. It's really slow. I don't know if I can even get this up. I'll probably edit the video a bit. Oh, there we go, the apology sign. But yeah, it's just a bit slow. And when you actually play the game, it's just a bit sluggish. You know, there's a lot going on the screen. Again, I remember playing this game, and the graphics quite good for the time. Really, you know, quite. They were quite as sort of fluffy and sort of smooth as on the like, you know, Mega Drive and SNES and things like that. But there always seemed to be just more going on the screen, just more sort of detail, I think, which I suppose the PC could handle with its sort of increased RAM and hard drive capabilities and things. Right, let's try. So as you see, I mean, it's playable. It's a playable game. It's all right. It works all right. It's just, I think it's like the frame rate just sort of seems a bit sort of jerky to me. Makes it a little bit. I mean, it definitely looks a lot better if you're playing it on a sort of a slightly more up-to-date machine, I think, like 486. But it's just surprising how a 3D game, like, well, 3D game actually seems to run better than a 2D game of the time, I suppose. Really, just shows you how incredible Wolfenstein 3D was as a what the programmers actually did with that. Really impressive. So I think I'm going to finish the video there. Anyway, we've had some success with the PS2. We've had to do a few things to it. I had to drill a hole in the VGA port because it had one pin sort of hole missing. So to get my VGA cable, I had to actually drill a hole in there. So just used a 1.5mm bit to do that. No problems. I've had to attach a battery to the CMOS chip so it can retain its actual clock and all the settings and things like that. Recap the floppy drive, giving that quite a good service, lubricated, recapped, cleaned that up, and that seems to be working quite well now, actually. And finally, the hard drive seemed to kick in of its own accord. I haven't messed about with that, you know. I'm not in the habit of taking apart hard drives. I think it's probably an exercise in futility, to be honest with you. So the problem is now the only way I can probably get if that hard drive is going to fail, which it likely is very soon, I need to try and work out if there's a way of actually, you know, installing an SD card or some alternative, or replacing the hard drive with something, which I've got a feeling is going to be very difficult with this very bespoke architecture, the micro channel architecture that it's got. I don't think it's just a standard IDE or AT style hard drive connection. So that's where I'm at, but like, I had a bit of success, had a bit of a play around with Microsoft Windows 3.1, which I haven't done for a long time, and Minesweeper, played a bit of Gorilla Basic, and had a bit of a look at Microsoft Excel, so that's brought back some memories. So I guess this is an ongoing project, but I've made quite a lot of progress so far, I suppose.